If you chose to open this video today, there's something deep inside your soul that already recognizes and knows that the old, outdated version of yourself is completely ready to die and transform forever. Not physically dying in the literal sense, but energetically dissolving and releasing all the old patterns that have been holding you back from your true potential. And that deep inner knowing and recognition that's stirring within you right now isn't coming from your logical, analytical mind that tries to figure everything out. It's coming directly from your powerful quantum field that's actively calling and guiding you toward your highest, most aligned timeline and destiny that's waiting for you. Right now, at this very moment, as you're sitting here watching this transformational video, there's an invisible, energetic force field completely surrounding you that's keeping you trapped and stuck in the same repetitive patterns, the same limiting thoughts, and the same restricted version of yourself that you've been unconsciously carrying around for many years. And here's the profound truth that most people don't fully understand about the connection between quantum physics and human consciousness in our daily lives. This energetic field that surrounds you isn't just existing in your mind as thoughts and beliefs. It's literally encoded and embedded in the actual fabric of your reality at a subatomic level that scientists are just beginning to understand. Have you ever noticed and wondered how the harder you try to change and transform your life, the more you seem to stay exactly the same person with the same problems and limitations? Have you ever questioned and pondered why some people can completely transform their entire lives in what seems like an instant magical moment, while others struggle and fight for decades with the same recurring issues, the same unfulfilling relationships, and the same frustrating financial situations that never seem to improve? The answer lies in something that quantum physicists and researchers call observer collapse and wave function reduction. But what the ancient mystics and spiritual teachers knew and understood as the complete death of the false self and the birth of authentic being. But here's where the mystery becomes even deeper and more fascinating than most people realize. There's a specific, measurable moment, and I'm talking about a scientifically observable moment that can be detected and studied, where your consciousness literally shifts dimensions and frequencies, where the old you with all its deep limitations and restrictive patterns begins to dissolve completely at the quantum level of reality. And in that beautiful, sacred dissolution process, something truly extraordinary and magical happens that defies conventional understanding. The universe itself starts to reorganize and restructure around the new, authentic you that's emerging from the quantum field of infinite possibilities. Most people never experience this profound, life-changing shift because they're doing exactly the opposite of what quantum mechanics and universal laws tell us is absolutely necessary for true transformation. They're trying to add new, positive habits to the old, unchanged self without releasing what no longer serves them. They're trying to improve and fix the old, limited identity instead of allowing it to dissolve completely. They're trying to upgrade and enhance the old, outdated programs while keeping the same fundamental operating system running in the background. But what if I told you that this common approach is exactly like trying to tune a radio to a beautiful new station while keeping the old static frequency playing loudly at the same time? The wise mystics of Tibet have an ancient, profound phrase that speaks to this truth. You cannot pour new, fresh wine into old, worn-out wineskins without everything breaking apart and spilling out. Modern neuroscience and brain research has proven and validated this ancient wisdom with incredible precision and accuracy. Dr. Joe Dispenza's groundbreaking research at the HeartMath Institute clearly shows and demonstrates that when we truly let go of our old, limiting identity completely, our brain literally rewires itself in real time with measurable changes. The neural pathways and connections that kept us locked and trapped in old, destructive patterns begin to dissolve and disappear, and new, powerful networks form that align perfectly with our highest potential and authentic self. But here's the crucial information that they don't tell you in the popular self-help books and programs. This quantum shift and transformation doesn't happen gradually over months and years through small, incremental changes. It doesn't happen through willpower and forced action or positive thinking and affirmations alone. It happens in a single, powerful moment of complete surrender and total letting go. What quantum physicists call quantum decoherence and wave function collapse, where the old you literally stops existing as a probability in the infinite quantum field of possibilities. Are you one of the rare, awakened souls who's truly ready to experience this profound transformation in your own life? Because what I'm about to share with you in the next few minutes will completely challenge and transform everything you think you know about change, about identity, and about the very nature of reality itself. You're about to discover why letting go isn't just a spiritual concept or philosophical idea. It's a quantum necessity and requirement for accessing higher dimensions of existence and consciousness. The question that will determine your entire future is this: are you ready to stop trying to fix and improve the old you and start allowing the real, authentic you to emerge from the quantum field of infinite possibility? To understand why letting go is the only true path to quantum transformation and awakening, we need to journey deep into the deepest mysteries of consciousness itself and how it operates. Every morning when you wake up from sleep, you're not just opening your physical eyes and starting another day. You're collapsing infinite possibilities and potential realities into a single, specific reality that you'll experience today. You're choosing at a subconscious, automatic level which version and expression of yourself will exist in this dimension today. But here's what's happening behind the scenes that most people never realize or become aware of. Every time you choose to be the same person you were yesterday with the same reactions and responses, every time you react from the same emotional patterns and triggers that have controlled you for years, every time you make decisions from the same limited beliefs and fears that have held you back, you're not just maintaining the status quo and keeping things the same. You're actively creating what quantum physicists call a probability wave collapse that locks you deeper and deeper into that particular timeline and reality. Think about this process this way so you can understand it clearly. In the infinite quantum field of possibilities, all potential realities and versions of yourself exist simultaneously in what scientists call superposition. The version of you that's confident, abundant, and living your highest purpose exists right now in what scientists call a superposition state of pure potential. But so does the version of you that's stuck, fearful, and repeating the same patterns and mistakes over and over again. The act of observation and conscious choice, your consciousness choosing which reality to focus on and experience, is exactly what makes one possibility real and solid and causes all the others to fade into the background of unexpressed potential. This is where ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science converge and unite in the most beautiful and profound way possible. The ancient Vedic texts speak clearly of Maya, the powerful illusion of the separate self that keeps us trapped in limitation. Buddhist teachings talk extensively about anatta, the complete non-existence of a fixed, permanent identity that we can cling to. What these profound traditions understood and taught thousands of years ago, quantum mechanics is now proving and demonstrating in advanced laboratories around the world. Your identity, the person you think you are and have always been, is not a fixed, unchangeable thing set in stone. It's actually a collection of repeated thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that have created what neuroscientists call neural superhighways in your brain. These are the deep grooves and pathways in your brain that make certain patterns automatic, unconscious, and completely effortless to repeat. They are so deeply ingrained and established that they feel like the real you and your permanent identity. But here's the life-changing revelation that transforms everything you thought you knew about yourself. These neural superhighways and automatic patterns, these programs that feel so permanent and unchangeable and set in stone, they only exist and have power because you keep choosing them and energizing them every single day. They only have control and influence over your life because you keep energizing and feeding them with your attention, your emotional energy, and your sense of identity and self. The precise moment, and I mean the exact moment, that you stop identifying with these old patterns and programs, something truly miraculous happens at the quantum level of reality. The wave function that was holding that specific version of reality in place begins to decohere and dissolve. The old you literally starts to dissolve and disappear, not as a destruction or loss, but as a beautiful liberation and freedom. This is exactly why every spiritual tradition and wisdom school talks about death and rebirth as essential processes. This is precisely why the hero's journey in every culture always involves a moment of complete surrender, a descent into the unknown darkness. It's not metaphorical or symbolic, it's quantum mechanical and scientifically based. The old self must die completely for the new self to emerge from the field of infinite potential. In the comments below, drop one word that captures the energy you're choosing to carry forward from this moment. Maybe it's alignment, maybe it's ease, maybe it's power, maybe it's something uniquely yours that resonates with your soul. Let that word be a small but profound declaration, a signal like a quantum seed you plant not just in this space but in the quantum field itself. But here's where most people get it completely wrong and sabotage their own transformation. They think letting go means losing something valuable and important. They think it means giving up essential parts of themselves that define who they are. They approach the process with fear, with resistance, with a deep sense of lack and loss. But what if I told you that what you think is the real you is actually the smallest, most limited version of who you really are at your core? What you're letting go of isn't your true self or your authentic power. It's the prison that's been keeping your true self hidden and suppressed. What you're releasing isn't your real power and potential. It's the illusions and false beliefs that have been blocking your power from flowing freely. What you're surrendering isn't your true identity and essence. It's the false identity that's been preventing your authentic self from shining through brightly. And this profound understanding is just the beginning of our journey together. What I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly how this quantum process works in detail, why it feels so challenging and scary, and most importantly, how to navigate it with grace and trust instead of fear. Because once you understand the deeper mechanics of consciousness transformation, you'll clearly see that letting go isn't something you do with effort, it's something you allow with surrender. Take a moment right now to pause and really feel this. Just pause completely and breathe deeply. Feel the energy that's moving through your entire body as you absorb these transformational words. There's something shifting inside you, isn't there? Something that wasn't there when you first started watching this video a few minutes ago. That's not your imagination playing tricks on you. That's your quantum field beginning to recalibrate and attune to higher frequencies. What you're experiencing right now is what physicists call quantum entanglement with higher possibilities and potential realities. The information you've just received isn't just entering your conscious mind as concepts and ideas. It's activating dormant potentials in your DNA, awakening cellular memories of who you truly are, beyond the limitations you've accepted as reality. Feel that slight expansion in your chest area, that gentle loosening of something that's been held tight for so long. That's the beginning of quantum decoherence. The old patterns starting to lose their grip on your energy field. Your nervous system is literally beginning to attune to a higher frequency version of yourself that exists beyond the boundaries of who you think you are. This is sacred ground you're standing on right now in this moment of recognition, the stirring of possibility, this gentle opening to something greater than you've known before. Ancient traditions would call this the threshold between worlds. Modern neuroscience calls it neuroplasticity, activation, and brain change. But what it really is your soul remembering its true nature and authentic power. Don't try to understand it with your logical mind that wants to analyze everything. Let your entire being absorb it naturally. Let your cells receive it completely. Let your quantum field integrate it fully. Because what's happening right now is preparing you for what comes next. The deeper revelations that will show you exactly how to work with this energy of transformation instead of against it. Dr. Amit Goswami, renowned quantum physicist and consciousness researcher, has spent decades studying what he calls quantum consciousness and its effects on reality. His groundbreaking research at the University of Oregon revealed something extraordinary and revolutionary. When we truly let go of our identification with old, limiting patterns completely, our brainwaves synchronize with what he terms the quantum self, a higher dimensional aspect of consciousness that exists beyond the limitations of space and time. But this isn't just modern science discovering new territory and breaking new ground. The ancient Tibetan Book of the Dead, written over 1,000 years ago by enlightened masters, describes in precise detail the stages of consciousness that occur during what they call bardo, the intermediate state between death and rebirth. What's remarkable and fascinating is that their descriptions of ego, dissolution, and identity transformation match exactly what neuroscientists are observing in brain scans during deep meditative states. Dr. Eben Alexander, the Harvard neurosurgeon who experienced a profound near-death experience, describes his journey into what he calls the core, a realm of consciousness where individual identity dissolves into pure, unlimited awareness. His scientific mind struggled to comprehend what his consciousness had experienced directly, a state of being where letting go of the self led to an expansion into something infinitely larger and more beautiful. The ancient Sufi mystic Rumi wrote with profound wisdom, "You were born with wings and unlimited potential. Why prefer to crawl through life limited and small?" What he understood, and what quantum consciousness research is now proving with scientific evidence, is that our limited identity isn't who we are at our essence. It's who we've been conditioned to believe we are through years of programming. In the ancient Hindu tradition, there's a beautiful concept called moksha, liberation from the cycle of suffering and limitation. But moksha doesn't come through gaining something new or adding more to yourself. It comes through releasing the illusion of separateness and the false belief that we are limited, isolated beings. But before we move forward into even deeper territory, I want to invite you into something real and transformational. If you've been feeling like something's making sense, and if a part of you is realizing your own power and potential, tap like if you just had an aha moment, because like attracts like, and subscribe to this channel. Stay with this space, grow with us on this journey of awakening. Modern physicists like Carlo Rovelli and Sean Carroll are discovering that at the quantum level, separateness is indeed an illusion and misconception. Everything is interconnected and unified. Everything is one unified field of consciousness, expressing itself in infinite forms and expressions. The Zen master Dogen taught that enlightenment is dropping off body and mind, not destroying them, but releasing our identification with them as the totality of who we are. Recent studies in consciousness research show that during deep letting go experiences, activity in the brain's default mode network, the area responsible for self-referential thinking dramatically decreases, while areas associated with unity consciousness become hyperactive and energized. But here's what these traditions and scientists have observed that changes everything about how we approach transformation and growth. The letting go process isn't random or chaotic. It follows specific laws, specific patterns, specific stages that can be understood and navigated with wisdom and awareness. 3 years ago, I was sitting in my car at 2 a.m. outside a 24-hour diner crying tears that felt like they were coming from the deepest parts of my soul and being. I had just walked away from everything that defined who I thought I was and had always been. My career, my relationship, my entire sense of identity, everything that made me feel secure, successful, and socially acceptable in the eyes of others. For months before that night, I had been feeling this strange pull, this inner knowing that the life I was living wasn't aligned with who I was becoming and evolving into. But every time I considered making a major change, my mind would flood me with overwhelming fears and worries. What will people think about you? How will you survive financially? You're throwing your entire life away for nothing. That night in the parking lot, I realized something profound and life-changing about my situation. Those weren't my fears speaking to me. They were the fears of the old version of myself that was desperately trying to survive. The version that needed external validation to feel worthy and valuable. The version that believed security came from controlling outcomes and managing every detail. The version that thought my identity was my job, my relationships, my possessions, and my achievements. And in that moment of complete breakdown and surrender, something extraordinary happened that I couldn't have predicted. I stopped trying to figure out what to do next. I stopped trying to manage the situation and control the outcome. I stopped trying to be strong and hold everything together. I just let go completely and surrendered to the unknown with every cell in my being. What happened next defied everything I thought I knew about how life works and how change happens. Within weeks of that surrender, opportunities began appearing that I couldn't have imagined or planned for. People entered my life who were perfectly aligned with my authentic path and purpose. Resources materialized in ways that seemed almost magical and divinely orchestrated. But the most profound change wasn't external or circumstantial, it was internal and energetic. I began to experience life from a completely different frequency and vibration. Where I used to feel anxious and worried, I felt excited and energized. Where I used to feel limited and trapped, I felt infinite and free. Where I used to feel separate and alone, I felt deeply connected to something vast and loving. That's when I understood what the mystics meant when they talked about death and rebirth as spiritual processes. That's when I realized why every spiritual tradition speaks of surrender as the doorway to liberation and freedom. That's when I discovered what quantum physicists mean when they say observation changes reality at the subatomic level. The old me didn't evolve gradually into the new me over time. The old me dissolved completely, and the new me emerged from an entirely different level of consciousness and awareness. This isn't just my personal story or unique experience. It's the story of every soul that has ever experienced true transformation and awakening. And if you're watching this video right now, it's calling to become your story too. Because what I discovered in that parking lot, what the quantum field revealed to me in that moment of complete surrender, is what I've dedicated my entire life to sharing with others. The path isn't about becoming someone new or different. It's about remembering who you've always been beneath the layers of conditioning and fear. And that remembering, that awakening, it always begins with the courage of letting go. In the comments, drop one thing that you deeply desire and want to manifest in your life. Maybe it's money and financial freedom. Maybe it's a happy relationship filled with love. Maybe it's a healthy and fit body. Maybe it's something uniquely yours that your heart calls for. Let this be a small but profound declaration, a signal to the universe you send not just in this space but in the quantum field itself. Now, how do you know when this quantum shift is beginning to happen in your own life? The universe has a way of communicating with us through signs, through synchronicities, through subtle shifts in the fabric of reality itself that most people completely miss. But most people miss these important signals because they are looking for dramatic, obvious changes and big external shifts. The first sign is what I call the divine dissatisfaction and inner restlessness. You start feeling restless with things that used to satisfy you and bring you joy. Your job might be fine and stable, but it doesn't light you up anymore or inspire you. Your relationships might be comfortable and familiar, but they don't inspire growth or challenge you to evolve. Your daily routines feel empty and meaningless, even though nothing has technically changed in your external circumstances. This isn't depression or mental illness. It's your soul outgrowing its current container and calling for expansion. You might notice that you're starting to question things you never questioned before in your life. Why do I do this job that drains my energy? Why do I live where I live if it doesn't inspire me? Why do I spend time with these people who don't support my growth? These aren't rebellious thoughts or signs of ingratitude. They are your consciousness preparing for expansion and evolution. Another powerful sign is what quantum physicists call reality glitches and dimensional bleeding. You might start noticing number sequences appearing repeatedly throughout your day. You might find yourself thinking of someone right before they call or text you unexpectedly. You might have dreams that feel more real and vivid than your waking life experiences. These aren't coincidences or random occurrences. They're evidence that your consciousness is beginning to operate from a higher dimensional frequency and awareness. Pay attention to how your body responds to different people, places, and situations around you. The old you might have ignored these signals, pushed through discomfort, or rationalized staying in misaligned circumstances that felt wrong. But as you attune to higher frequencies and vibrations, your body becomes an exquisite guidance system and inner compass. Expansion feels light, energizing, spacious, and naturally flowing. Contraction feels heavy, draining, restrictive, and forced. You might also notice that old patterns are amplifying before they dissolve completely. This is what consciousness researcher David Hawkins called the final purgation and clearing. Your habitual ways of thinking and reacting might become more intense, more obvious, more uncomfortable than they've ever been before. This isn't a sign that you're going backwards or failing in your growth. It's a sign that these patterns are losing their unconscious hold on you and becoming visible so they can be released and transformed. Another profound sign is the appearance of what I call quantum mentors and divine orchestration. People start entering your life who reflect your highest potential back to you clearly. Books fall into your hands at exactly the right moment with the perfect message. Conversations happen that feel divinely orchestrated and perfectly timed. Opportunities present themselves that align with your deepest values and authentic gifts naturally. The universe literally begins to reorganize itself around your emerging truth and authentic expression. But here's the sign that confirms you're in the deepest part of the quantum shift transformation. You start experiencing what mystics call the dark night of the soul and spiritual emergency. Everything that used to give your life meaning feels empty and pointless. Everything you used to rely on for security feels unstable and uncertain. Everything you used to turn to for identity feels foreign and inauthentic. This isn't a breakdown or failure, it's a breakthrough and spiritual emergency. It's your consciousness expanding beyond the boundaries of the old self and limited identity. It's the caterpillar dissolving in the cocoon before emerging as a beautiful butterfly. It's the most sacred, most necessary part of the transformation process that cannot be skipped. But here's what I haven't told you yet about this process. Here's the piece of information that changes everything about how you navigate this quantum shift successfully. There's a specific moment in the letting go process where most people turn back in fear. There's a threshold that once crossed makes the transformation irreversible and permanent. And there's a choice you'll be faced with that will determine whether you complete the shift or remain trapped between two worlds. Ancient alchemists called this phase the negredo, the blackening, the stage where everything must dissolve before it can be reborn into something greater. Modern neuroscience has identified this as the neural gap and rewiring phase, the space between the death of old neural pathways and the birth of new ones. Quantum physicists recognize it as the collapse point and wave function reduction, the moment where one reality ends and another begins. But what they don't tell you is that this moment doesn't just happen once in your lifetime. It happens multiple times during the transformation process and spiritual evolution. Each time at a deeper level of surrender, each time requiring greater faith, greater trust, greater willingness to step into the unknown. And there's something else that's crucial to understand. Something that will determine not just whether you successfully navigate this quantum shift, but how quickly you do it, how gracefully you move through it, and how completely you embody the new version of yourself that's waiting to emerge. It has to do with a principle that's hidden in the deepest teachings of every mystical tradition, encoded in the most advanced theories of quantum mechanics, and reflected in the transformation stories of every person who has successfully made this journey from the old self to the authentic self. What is this principle that makes all the difference? What is the secret that distinguishes those who successfully transform from those who get stuck in the in-between space? What is this key that unlocks the door to your highest timeline and greatest potential? I'm going to reveal it to you in just a moment. But first, you need to understand exactly what happens in your brain, your body, and your energy field when you truly let go completely. Because once you see the mechanism clearly, once you understand the process scientifically, you'll never be afraid of letting go again. When you truly let go of the old self completely, when you stop trying to maintain and protect and improve the limited version of who you think you are, your nervous system undergoes what neuroscientists call coherent reorganization and optimal functioning. Every system in your body begins to function at a higher level of efficiency and harmony than before. First, your stress response system completely recalibrates and resets itself. The constant state of fight or flight that comes from trying to control outcomes protect the ego, and maintain a false sense of security begins to dissolve naturally. Your cortisol levels normalize and balance. Your heart rate variability increases significantly. Your immune system strengthens and becomes more resilient. But more than that, you begin to experience a profound sense of inner peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances or situations. Remember my story about that night in the parking lot when everything changed? The months that followed were the most peaceful of my entire life. Not because everything was perfect and easy, but because I had stopped fighting reality and trying to control every outcome. I had stopped exhausting myself trying to force outcomes and manage every detail. I had stopped depleting my energy maintaining an identity that wasn't authentic or true. Your cognitive function also transforms dramatically when you're no longer using vast amounts of mental energy to maintain old patterns, defend the ego, and suppress authentic impulses and desires. Your mind becomes incredibly clear, creative, and intuitive in ways you never experienced before. Problems that seemed impossible to solve suddenly have obvious, elegant solutions. Creative ideas flow effortlessly without forcing or straining. Decision making becomes simple because you're aligned with your truth rather than your fears and conditioning. Dr. Bruce Lipton's groundbreaking research on epigenetics shows that when we change our beliefs about who we are, we literally change which genes are expressed in our bodies at the cellular level. The genes associated with stress, aging, and disease become less active and suppressed. The genes associated with vitality, regeneration, and health become more active and expressed. You're not just changing your psychology and mindset, you're changing your biology and physical expression. But the most profound benefit is what spiritual traditions call self realization and direct knowing. The direct experience of your true nature beyond all conditioning, beyond all limitations, beyond all stories about who you're supposed to be. This isn't a concept you understand intellectually with your mind. It's a living reality you experience in every moment of your existence. You begin to live from what the mystics call beginner's mind, a state of constant freshness, wonder, and openness to infinite possibilities. You stop approaching life from the perspective of past wounds and future fears. You start responding to each moment from presence, from authenticity, from love and truth. Your relationships transform because you're no longer trying to get anything from other people to complete yourself or make you feel whole. You're not looking for validation, security, or identity from external sources outside yourself. You love from fullness rather than emptiness and need. You give from abundance rather than scarcity and fear. Just like in my own transformation journey, opportunities begin to appear that are perfectly aligned with your authentic gifts and deepest values. Money flows more easily because you're no longer blocking abundance with limiting beliefs about worthiness and scarcity. Health improves because you're no longer creating illness through internal conflict and stress. Creativity explodes because you're no longer censoring your authentic expression and unique voice. But perhaps most importantly, you develop what I call quantum trust and divine faith, an unshakable faith in the intelligence of life itself and the universe. You know at the deepest level that everything is happening for your highest good and evolution. You know that the universe is conspiring to help you fulfill your highest potential and purpose. You know that letting go isn't about losing anything valuable. It's about gaining everything that truly matters. Pause for a moment and really feel this truth. Really pause and let this sink in deeply. What if everything you've been taught about change, about growth, about becoming your best self has been completely backwards and misleading? What if the path to your highest potential isn't about adding more things, doing more activities, becoming more accomplished, but about releasing, surrendering, letting go of everything that isn't authentically you? What if the struggles you've experienced, the resistance you felt, the seeming impossibility of lasting change, what if all of that has been happening because you've been trying to transform while still holding on to the very identity that needed to be released and dissolved? Think about your own life for a moment with complete honesty. How much energy are you currently spending trying to manage, control, and improve circumstances while staying essentially the same person inside? How much effort are you putting into changing your external world while keeping your internal world exactly as it is and always has been? What would happen if you stopped all that effort and struggle? What would happen if you just let go of the need to control everything? Not of your responsibilities and commitments, not of your care for others, not of your authentic desires and dreams, but of the desperate need to be who you think you're supposed to be. What if the person you're trying so hard to become is actually a smaller, more limited version of who you already are at your core essence? What if beneath all the conditioning, all the fear, all the stories about limitation and lack, there's a version of you that's already whole, already perfect, already connected to infinite intelligence and love? This isn't just philosophical speculation or wishful thinking. This is the direct experience that every mystic throughout history has reported. This is the reality that quantum physics is pointing toward with increasing clarity. This is the transformation that becomes possible the moment you stop trying to improve the false self and start allowing the true self to emerge naturally. The caterpillar doesn't try to become a better, more improved caterpillar. It doesn't go to caterpillar therapy or read caterpillar self-help books or set caterpillar goals for self-improvement. It surrenders so completely to the transformation process that its entire being dissolves and something entirely new emerges. Something that was always its potential but could never manifest while it insisted on remaining a caterpillar. What if your struggles, your dissatisfaction, your deep longing for something more are in signs that something is wrong with you or that you're broken? What if they're signs that something is so right with you that your soul is no longer willing to settle for anything less than your full potential and authentic expression? What if this moment right now is the beginning of your own quantum shift and transformation? What if reading these words, feeling these possibilities, sensing this truth is your consciousness preparing for the most beautiful transformation of your entire life? The only question remaining is, are you ready to trust the process completely? Are you ready to let go of who you think you are and discover who you've always been at your essence? Make sure you share this video with your friends and family. You might be a blessing in disguise for them today. Remember, you are not just sharing a video, you are spreading positive energy and transformation, and that positive energy will help you manifest everything you commented about earlier. But there's something I need to tell you before we continue this journey together. What I've shared with you so far is just the foundation and preparation. It's a preparation for something much deeper, much more profound, much more transformative than most people ever imagined possible in their lifetime. There are levels to this quantum shift that go beyond personal transformation and individual healing. There are dimensions of consciousness that open up when you complete this process of letting go that connect you to abilities, insights, and experiences that most people consider impossible or supernatural. I'm talking about what the ancients called siddhis, the natural abilities that emerge when consciousness is no longer limited by identification with the separate self and ego mind. I'm talking about what modern physicists are discovering about the nature of consciousness and its role in shaping reality at the quantum level of existence. In the videos that follow this foundation, I'm going to take you into territory that few people are ready to explore honestly. I'm going to show you what happens when the quantum shift is complete and fully embodied. When you fully embody your authentic self, when you're operating from what the mystics call unity consciousness and cosmic awareness, you're going to discover how consciousness doesn't just observe reality passively, it literally creates it actively. You're going to learn about the quantum field techniques that allow you to manifest from a completely different level of being and awareness. You're going to understand why synchronicities multiply exponentially, why intuitive abilities amplify dramatically, why your very presence begins to elevate the consciousness of everyone around you naturally. But here's what you need to understand about these abilities and experiences. These aren't special powers that some people have and others don't based on luck or genetics. These are natural abilities that become available when you're no longer using all your energy to maintain a false identity and limited self-concept. They're the birthright of consciousness itself, accessible to anyone who has completed the journey from the ego self to the authentic self. The question is, how far are you willing to go on this journey? How deep are you willing to dive into these mysteries? How completely are you willing to let go of everything you think you know about who you are and what's possible for your life? Because what comes next will challenge every assumption you've ever had about the nature of reality, the power of consciousness, and your role as a conscious creator in this quantum universe of infinite possibilities. As we reach the end of our time together today, I want to leave you with something that the quantum field has been whispering to you throughout this entire video experience. Something that your soul already knows and recognizes, but your mind hasn't quite grasped yet with full understanding. The version of you that started watching this video is not the same as the version of you that's receiving these words right now in this moment. Something has shifted fundamentally. Something has awakened from its slumber. Something has been activated at a cellular, energetic, quantum level that cannot be undone. You might not feel dramatically different on the surface. The change might be so subtle that your conscious mind barely registers it happening. But your quantum field knows what has occurred. Your higher self knows what has been activated. The universe knows what has been set in motion. And here's the mystery I want to leave you with as we conclude. The fact that you found this video, that you stayed until this moment, that these words are resonating in your being right now. None of that is coincidence or random occurrence. Your quantum field has been orchestrating this moment for longer than you realize or can comprehend. There are forces, intelligences, aspects of yourself that exist beyond the boundaries of time and space that have been guiding you toward this recognition, toward this remembering, toward this moment of choosing between the old you and the true you. The question that will echo in your consciousness long after this video ends is this profound truth. What if the quantum shift isn't something that's going to happen to you in the future? What if it's something that's already happening through you right now? What if every moment of dissatisfaction, every stirring of possibility, every recognition of truth has been preparing you for a transformation that's already begun and is unfolding perfectly? What if letting go isn't something you do with effort and struggle, but something you are at your very essence? What if the old you was never real in the first place, but just a temporary dream? And what if who you really are is the dreamer awakening to your true nature and unlimited potential? The answers to these questions aren't found in more thinking, more analyzing, more figuring out with your logical mind. They're found in the space of pure awareness that opens up when you stop trying to know and start being willing to not know everything. They're found in the silence between thoughts, in the peace beyond understanding, in the love that exists prior to all experience and conditioning. This is where the real journey begins for those who are ready. If you've stayed with me until this moment, if you've allowed these words to penetrate not just your mind, but your being and your soul, then you know that something irreversible has been set in motion within you. The quantum shift we've been talking about isn't just a concept anymore or something to understand intellectually. It's a living reality that's beginning to unfold in your life right now. The old you that woke up this morning was operating from one level of consciousness and limited awareness. The you that's receiving these words right now has access to dimensions of possibility that didn't exist in your awareness before this moment. This isn't metaphorical or symbolic. It's quantum mechanical and scientifically measurable. But here's what's crucial to understand as we prepare to close this transformational experience together. This is just the beginning of your awakening journey. The activation that's happened during our time together is like planting a powerful seed in fertile soil. What determines whether that seed grows into the full flowering of your authentic self is what you do in the moments, hours, and days that follow this video. The quantum field is calling you deeper into the mystery. Your highest timeline is beckoning you forward with love and excitement. The version of yourself that exists beyond all limitations is ready to emerge fully into this reality and express itself completely. This is why I have created a series of videos that will guide you through each stage of this transformation journey. Each video builds upon the last, taking you deeper into the mystery, higher into the possibilities, further into the truth of who you really are, beyond all conditioning and limitation. The next video in this series will reveal the specific techniques that allow you to navigate the quantum shift with grace instead of struggle and resistance. You'll discover the ancient practices that modern neuroscience has proven can literally rewire your brain in real time with measurable results. You learn the exact steps that transform letting go from a scary leap into the unknown into a joyful dance with infinite possibility and potential. Right now, on your screen, you're seeing videos that represent different aspects of your quantum transformation and spiritual evolution. Each one contains keys that unlock different dimensions of your awakening and self-realization. Each one reveals different pieces of the puzzle of becoming fully yourself and expressing your authentic essence. Choose the one that calls to you most strongly and feels most aligned with your current needs. Trust that calling completely. It's not random or coincidental. It's your quantum field guiding you toward the next perfect step in your evolution and spiritual growth. And as you click on that video, as you continue this journey of discovering your true nature and unlimited potential, remember this important truth. You are not just watching videos about transformation and spiritual awakening. You are actively participating in the evolution of consciousness itself and contributing to the awakening of humanity. You're part of a quantum field of beings who are awakening to their true nature, and in doing so, helping to awaken the entire planet and collective consciousness. Welcome to the quantum shift and the beginning of your transformation. Welcome to the reflection of your highest self and unlimited potential. Welcome to the beginning of the most beautiful journey of your life and spiritual evolution. The next level of your awakening is just one click away, waiting for you to step forward with courage and trust.